The morning sun rose over New Sejong, the main settlement on Haven 7, painting the colony's fields and buildings in warm golden light. From the observation deck of the defense headquarters, Captain Minho Park watched the city slowly come alive below. 15,000 people called this place home. Families walked through the streets. Farmers prepared their fields. Children headed toward schools. For a moment it looked less like a distant colony on the edge of human space, and more like a peaceful town on Earth. Minho's thoughts drifted to his family. His wife, Sman, was probably already teaching at the primary school in District 7. His daughter, Hana, was sitting in her classroom right now, likely drawing pictures of the strange purple birds that lived in the nearby forests. A small smile appeared on his face. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He joined the military back on Earth. He fought in the brutal resource wars, where entire cities had been destroyed over the last remaining supplies. Later, when humanity joined the Galactic Council, Minho volunteered for colony defense. That had been 12 years ago. 12 years of peace. 12 years of watching crops grow instead of watching battlefields burn. 12 years of children laughing instead of soldiers screaming. He had almost forgotten what war felt like. Almost. Across the settlement, Dr. Yoonji Kim rushed through the doors of the medical center, her white coat moving behind her as she hurried toward the emergency room. 3 farmers had been injured in a harvester accident, and she needed to prepare the surgical equipment immediately. Life on Haven 7 was peaceful, but it was still a frontier colony. Machines failed. Weather systems malfunctioned. People were injured working the land. Yet Yoonji loved this place. She loved knowing that every building, every road, and every field existed because someone had worked hard to create it. They were not just surviving. They were building a future. Meanwhile, Governor Dion Choi sat in his office reviewing the latest trade reports. Everything looked normal. Supply shipments were on schedule. The colony was growing. Relations with nearby worlds remained stable. Haven 7 was exactly what humanity had dreamed of creating among the stars. A new beginning. A peaceful home. None of them knew that peace was about to end, because far beyond the edge of their system, something had detected their presence. Haven 7 had rich mineral deposits that the galaxy wanted. The colony exported rare Earth elements to 6 different star systems. In return, they received advanced technology, medical supplies, and cultural exchanges. Daeheim was proud of what they had built here. A peaceful human colony thriving among the stars. The alarm changed everything. Minho's console lit up with warnings. Ships were entering the system. Big ships, military ships. He pulled up the scanner data and felt his stomach drop. 17 warships, all broadcasting Valix Dominion identification codes. The Valix were one of the powerful species in the galaxy. They controlled 17 star systems through military strength and aggressive expansion. They looked like bipedal reptiles standing nearly 8 feet tall with armored skin and sharp claws. They were predators, and they acted like it. Minho opened a channel to Governor Dune. "Sir, we have Relics warships in orbit. They're not responding to standard greetings." Daehun stood up from his desk, his face suddenly pale. "Send them an official welcome from the colony. Offer them trade discussions and diplomatic courtesies. Alert the Galactic Council immediately." The Verl's response came 30 minutes later. A massive face filled every public screen in the colony. Warp Prime Thulkor, commander of the Verlex fleet, stared down at the humans with cold yellow eyes. Humans of Haven 7. Thulkor's voice rumbled through speakers across the settlement. "Your colony sits on resources that belong to the Velix Dominion by right of strength. You will surrender control of all mining operations. You will provide 20% of your population as labor workers. You will acknowledge Verex's authority over this system. You have 12 hours to begin negotiations." Daejon stood in the main square looking up at the screen. Around him, 15,000 colonists watched in shock. This was not how First Contact was supposed to work. The Galactic Council had rules, protocols, and peaceful procedures for disputes. "We need to negotiate," Dean said to his advisors. "Contact the Galactic Council. Get mediators here immediately. We can work this out peacefully." The Galactic Council responded faster than expected. 2 council ships arrived within hours. Ambassador Quillix, an insectoid species with multiple eyes and a translator device, scuttled off the first ship. Mediator Renewal, an aquatic being in a water-filled mobility suit, emerged from the second. Ambassador Quillix approached Governor Dijon with what might have been sympathy. It was hard to read emotions on an insect face. "Governor, the Council is here to facilitate negotiations. The Verlex have made demands, as is their right under Council law. You must make counter-offers, find acceptable terms. This is how galactic civilization functions." Dune felt sick. "They want to enslave our people. How do we negotiate that?" Mediator Renewal's voice bubbled through the water in his suit. "You negotiate the percentage, the work conditions, the duration of the agreement. The Vlex are strong, you are weak. This is natural order. Make the best deal you can." The negotiations began in the colony's assembly hall. Warp Prime Thulkor sat on one side, massive and intimidating. Governor Dahan sat on the other, trying to find words that would save his people. The council mediators sat between them, facilitating the discussion. For 6 hours they talked. Dahan offered trade agreements, mining contracts, and profit-sharing arrangements. Thor demanded submission, labor, and tribute. The council mediator suggested compromises that made Dion want to vomit. Finally, Warp Prime Thulkor stood up, his claws scraped against the table. "Humans talk too much. You waste time with words. The Valaks teach lessons to those who do not understand strength." Thulkor walked out of the assembly hall. Dihan looked at the council mediators in confusion. "What does that mean?" Ambassador Quillix's translator crackled. "It means he will demonstrate his power. It is standard Velix negotiation technique. He will hurt you enough to make you cooperative, but not enough to destroy your value as workers. This is normal." "Normal?" Dihai stood up, his voice rising. "What does he mean by hurt us?" The answer came 10 minutes later. Mino was in the defense headquarters when every alarm in the building started screaming. His display showed energy signatures building on the Verlex flagship, weapons charging, targeting systems locking on. He grabbed his communicator. "All civilians to emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill. The orbital strike hit District 7 at exactly 14:23 Colony Standard Time. The Verlex warship fired 3 plasma charges directly into the residential area. The explosions were visible from space. Unji was in the medical center when the shockwave hit. The building shook, and alarms started ringing everywhere. She ran to the windows and saw the mushroom cloud rising from District 7. That was where the school was, where 3,000 people lived. Minho's hand shook as he pulled up damage reports. District 7 was gone, just gone. A smoking crater, where homes and shops and a school used to be. His communicator was filled with desperate calls, people looking for loved ones, emergency services overwhelmed with casualties. He tried calling Sman, no answer. He tried calling Hana, no answer. He tried again and again, but the communicator just showed connection errors. District 7's network was destroyed. Governor Dion stood in the ruins at the edge of the crater. Emergency crews were pulling bodies from collapsed buildings. The school was simply gone, vaporized by the plasma strike. 3,000 people dead in an instant. Children, teachers, families. Ambassador Quillix approached him carefully. "Governor, the Verlex have demonstrated their resolve. This is tragic, but expected. Now you must return to negotiations with a more realistic understanding of your position. The Council can help you reach acceptable terms." Dehayan turned to look at the insectoid ambassador. His face was covered in dust and ash. His eyes were red from smoke and tears. Acceptable terms? They murdered 3,000 civilians. They killed children. "Yes," Quillix said simply. "This is how stronger species negotiate with weaker ones. You must adapt to galactic reality. Return to the table, make concessions, minimize further losses." Minho arrived at the crater's edge. He had been searching for survivors, but there were none in the primary impact zone. He looked at Governor Dion and saw the same rage he felt burning in his own chest. "Sir," Minho said quietly, "what are your orders?" Dahoon looked at the crater, at the bodies, at the smoke rising into the sky. He thought about what the galaxy expected him to do. Go back to the table, negotiate how many more people he would give to the Vlix. Except that this was normal. "Send a message to Earth," Dean said. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them everything in the negotiations," Ambassador Quillix asked. "War Prime Thulkor is waiting for your return to the table." Minho answered before Dejan could speak. His voice was cold and hard. "Humans don't negotiate with murderers." The message went out to Earth on every available channel. Images of the crater, names of the dead, video of children's bodies being pulled from rubble, and one simple request: send the Navy. The galaxy was about to learn something about humanity. There were lines that should not be crossed, principles that could not be compromised, and some species did not accept that strength made right. Warp Prime Thulkor waited in orbit, confident that the humans would return to negotiations. They always did. Every species bent when faced with superior force. This was the way of the galaxy. But humanity was not every species, and the Valix had just made the last mistake they would ever make. Admiral Hyanong stood in the war room beneath Earth's military headquarters. The walls were covered with displays showing star charts, fleet positions, and casualty reports, but her eyes were fixed on one screen. The video from Haven 7 played on repeat. The crater, the bodies, the school that used to exist. President Jun Quan sat at the head of the conference table. Around him were the Joint Chiefs, the Secretary of Defense, and representatives from every branch of Earth's military. They had been in this room for 6 hours watching the videos, reading the reports, and listening to the Galactic Council's messages. The Council's position was clear. This was normal galactic politics. The Verlex had demonstrated strength. Haven 7 should negotiate terms. Humanity should accept how things worked in civilized space. Any military response would be seen as barbaric and would result in complete diplomatic isolation. "They want us to go back to the table," President Tunen said quietly. "They want us to discuss how many of our people we'll hand over as slaves. They want us to accept that murdering 3,000 civilians is just part of negotiations." Fleet Admiral Jaiwan Lee, commander of Earth's Space Forces, stood up. She was 56 years old and had spent her entire adult life preparing Earth's defenses. She had fought in the resource wars. She had overseen the construction of humanity's first interstellar warships. She had trained every naval officer currently serving. "Mr. President," Jiwan said, "the Council is telling us how they do things. I suggest we show them how humans do things." President Tunen looked around the table. Every face showed the same expression: anger, determination, and something the galaxy had not seen from humanity before: pure, focused rage. "Prepare the fleet," President Jin ordered. "All of it." The mobilization began immediately. Commander Sujin Yoon received her orders at 03 Bohr's Earth Standard Time. She was captain of the dreadnought Indomitable, the largest warship in Earth's fleet. The ship was designed for one purpose: winning battles against superior numbers through overwhelming firepower. Sujin assembled her crew in the main hangar. 3,000 men and women stood at attention, watching their captain with absolute trust. She had led them through training exercises and patrol missions. Now she would lead them into real combat. "We are going to Haven 7, Sujin announced. The Vix murdered 3,000 civilians there. They think this will make us negotiate. They think we will bend, like every other species in the galaxy." She paused, making eye contact with her crew. "They are about to learn they are wrong." The crew's response was a single unified shout that echoed through the hangar. They were ready. Lieutenant John Ho Bei climbed into his fighter cockpit on the carrier Relentless. He was 28 years old, one of the best pilots in the fleet. His squadron was called the Reapers, and they had trained for years in combat simulations. Now the simulations were over. Junho's communicator crackled with a message from his mother back on Earth. She had seen the news from Haven 7. She knew where the fleet was going. Her message was short: "Come home safe. Make them pay." Junho sealed his helmet and ran through pre-flight checks. Around him, 73 warships were preparing to depart. 5 dreadnoughts, 12 carriers, 24 cruisers, and 32 destroyers. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Dr. Mina Chaw sat in her office on the flagship Valiant, trying to write a report that made sense. She was Earth's leading xenopsychologist, an expert on alien cultures and behaviors. Her job was to help humanity understand the galaxy. Right now, she was trying to help Earth Command understand why the galaxy was so horrified by humanity's response. Galactic warfare is ritualized, Menina wrote. Species show force, make demands, and the weaker side negotiates terms. Actual combat is rare. Extermination warfare is unheard of. The Verlex expected their demonstration of force to bring humans to the negotiating table. They have no context for a species that responds to civilian casualties with total war. Admiral Hedenong read the report and sent back a single line. Good. Let them be horrified. The fleet departed from Earth orbit in a synchronized formation that took 3 hours to complete. Every ship fell into position with precision timing. The maneuver was broadcast across the galaxy. Humanity wanted everyone to see what was coming. The Galactic Council sent urgent messages. This was inappropriate. This was excessive. This was not how civilized species resolve disputes. They threatened economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and even military intervention to stop humanity's fleet. Trade Minister Hayun Munam, Earth's representative to the Council, sat in the Council chambers and listened to the threats with a calm expression. He was a diplomat by training, a negotiator by profession. He had spent 12 years building peaceful relationships with alien species. Now, he sat in front of the Council and delivered Earth's response. The Galactic Council has explained to us that violence against civilians is an acceptable negotiation tactic. Hyun Woo said clearly, Earth rejects this principle entirely. The Verlex murdered 3,000 of our people, including children. There will be no negotiation. There will be no discussion of terms. The Verrex military will be destroyed, and the individuals responsible will face trial for war crimes. Arch-Chancellor Velronis, leader of the Council, stood up from his seat. He was a Drenthi, a centaur-like species that had maintained galactic peace for 5,000 years. His voice carried authority that ended wars. Trade Minister, if humanity continues this course of action, you will face total isolation. No species will trade with you. No ports will accept your ships. You will be alone in the galaxy. Hyun Woo looked directly at the Arch-Chancellor. Then we will be alone. The fleet traveled for 2 weeks through hyperspace. During that time, the crews trained constantly. Fighter pilots ran combat drills. Gunners practiced targeting protocols. Marines rehearsed boarding actions. Every person on every ship knew exactly what was expected of them. Commander Sujin Yun walked through the corridors of the Indomitable, checking on her crew. She stopped by engineering, where teams were optimizing the power distribution systems. She visited the medical bay where doctors were preparing for casualties. She spent time in the mesh hall, eating with the enlisted personnel. Captain, a young Inin asked her, "Is it true we're outnumbered?" Sujan nodded. The Verlexics have reinforced their position at Haven 7. They have 47 warships there now. We have 73. That doesn't seem too bad, the Inin said. In galactic warfare, those are good odds, Sujan agreed. But we're not fighting a galactic war. We're fighting a human war. And in human warfare, we don't count ships, we count objectives. Our objective is simple. Destroy every Vlex military asset in the Haven 7 system. We will accomplish that objective regardless of cost. The young Inin looked uncertain. Sujin put a hand on his shoulder. The Verrex think they understand strength. They think military power means you can do whatever you want. We're going to teach them that real strength is having power and choosing to use it only against those who deserve it. The Vlix crossed a line. Now they face the consequences. Lieutenant Jun Hobai wrote letters to his family during the journey. He wrote to his mother, telling her he was proud to serve. He wrote to his younger sister, encouraging her to pursue her dreams. He wrote to his friends, sharing memories of better times he did not expect to die. The training was good, the equipment was excellent, and the plan was solid. But he was a fighter pilot going into combat, and he knew the statistics. Some of them would not come home. If he died, Junho wanted his family to know he died for something that mattered. The Verilex had killed children. Someone had to make them pay for that. Someone had to show the galaxy that murdering civilians had consequences. Dr. Mina Cha continued her analysis of galactic psychology. She sent regular reports to Earth Command explaining the cultural context of what humanity was doing. The galaxy operates on a system of negotiated power hierarchies, one report explained. Strong species make demands, weak species make concessions. Everyone accepts this system because everyone benefits at some level. Even weak species can negotiate protections and rights within the system. Humanity's response threatens this entire structure. If a weak species can refuse to negotiate and instead choose total war, the strong species lose their primary tool of control. This is why the Council is so desperate to stop us. We are not just fighting the Vilix. We are challenging the fundamental rules of galactic civilization. Admiral Hyun read the report and sent it to President Toon with a note. She's right. We're not just avenging Haven 7. We're starting a revolution. The fleet arrived at Haven 7 2 weeks after leaving Earth. They exited hyperspace in perfect formation. 73 warships appearing simultaneously at the edge of the system. The coordination was flawless. War Prime Thulkor was waiting for them. He had reinforced his position significantly. 47 Vlex warships orbited Haven 7 with heavy gun platforms and fighter squadrons ready for deployment. It was an overwhelming show of force designed to make the humans back down. Thulor opened a communication channel to the human fleet. His massive reptilian face filled the displays on every human ship. Humans growled. "You have made a foolish mistake. My fleet is superior to yours. Your deaths will serve as an example to other weak." The 30-minute timer ticked down in silence. War Prime Thulkor sat in his command throne aboard the flagship Conqueror, watching the human fleet with amusement. The humans maintained their formation, weapons powered but not yet firing. They actually expected him to surrender. Thor had fought in 43 battles across 17 star systems. He had never surrendered. The Verlex did not surrender. They conquered or they died. These humans did not understand galactic reality. They were prey pretending to be predators. "Maintain formation," Thulkor ordered his fleet. "When the humans realize their mistake, we will accept their surrender. Then we will take their ships as trophies and their crews as slaves." On the Valiant, Admiral Heejin Song watched the countdown with steady eyes. She had given the Vlix a chance. International law required it. Human law required it. She had offered terms. They were refused. "All ships," Heijin transmitted to the fleet. "The enemy has declined to surrender. Execute Battle Plan Hammer." Commander Sujin Yun felt the order come through on the Indomitable. She had studied Battle Plan Hammer for 2 weeks. Every captain in the fleet had memorized it. It was not complicated. It was brutally simple. "All hands to battle stations," Sujin ordered. "Reactor to combat power. Weapons free. Execute hammer on my mark." The timer reached 0. The human fleet moved as one organism. The dreadnoughts accelerated to attack speed, their massive engines burning bright blue. The carriers launched fighter squadrons in coordinated waves. The cruisers spread into support positions. The destroyers formed a screening line. War Prime Thulkor watched the human formation change and felt the first hint of concern. The humans moved with precision he had never seen before. Every ship knew exactly where to be, exactly when to be there. This was not galactic warfare. This was something else. All ships opened fire, Thor ordered. "Destroy the human fleet." The Verlex opened fire first. 47 warships unleashed plasma cannons, missile batteries, and particle beams. The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. It was an impressive display of raw destructive power. The human fleet did not try to dodge. They flew directly into the fire, shields absorbing the impacts. 3 destroyers took critical hits and fell behind, but the rest of the fleet maintained formation. They were still accelerating. Lieutenant Jun Hobe led his fighter squadron through the opening wave of Relic's fire. His fighter shook as energy blasts passed within meters of his hull. His wingman exploded to his left, caught by a lucky shot. Junho did not break formation. "Reapers, maintain speed," Junho transmitted. Target the carriers, ignore everything else. Galactic warfare doctrine said fighters should dogfight, duel for superiority, and establish air control. Human doctrine said fighters were missiles with pilots. You pointed them at high-value targets and accepted the casualties. The Reaper Squadron hit the Vilix carrier formation at combat speed. They fired everything they had, every missile, every cannon round, every energy weapon. Half the squadron died in the attack, but 3 Verlix carriers erupted in flames, their fighter bays destroyed before they could launch. Commander Sugjan brought the Indomitable through the Verlix center line like a hammer through glass. The dreadnought took hits that would have destroyed a smaller ship. Armor plating melted, shield generators exploded, entire sections lost atmosphere. But the Indomitable's main guns never stopped firing. Sugjan had calculated the power requirements perfectly. Every shot targeted a Verlex ship's reactor core. Every shot was designed to kill. The Verlex warship Pride of Conquest took a direct hit to its power plant. The reactor went critical, and the ship exploded from the inside. Debris and bodies scattered across the battlefield. Before the wreckage had stopped moving, the Indomitable was already targeting its next victim. Warp Prime Thulkor watched his formation dissolve in confusion. The humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered. They accepted losses that would make any sane commander retreat. They targeted critical systems with surgical precision. They coordinated attacks across the entire battlefield, like they shared one mind. Reform the line, Dulkor ordered. Concentrate fire on their command ship. Kill their admiral, and they will break. The Vlix fleet shifted, bringing their heaviest weapons to bear on the Valiant. Admiral He-Jin Song watched the targeting indicators light up across her display. 57 different weapon systems were locked onto her ship. Evasive maneuvers, He-Jin ordered calmly. Deploy decoys. All escorts. Screen the Valiant. 4 destroyers moved to intercept the incoming fire. They positioned themselves between the Valiant and the Relics guns using their own hulls as shields. The destroyers took catastrophic damage. Hundreds of crew members died in seconds, but the Valiant survived, and Admiral He-Jin Song continued coordinating the battle with cold efficiency. Captain Ji Hwan commanded the destroyer Relentless. His ship had taken severe damage in the opening minutes of combat. Half his crew was dead. Main power was failing. Weapons were offline. Life support was barely functioning. Captain, his executive officer reported, "We're dead in space. Should we abandon ship?" Ji-ho looked at his tactical display. A Rails dreadnought was moving through the battlefield, its heavy guns destroying human ships one after another. The dreadnought was too heavily armored for normal weapons to penetrate, but it was passing directly in front of the Relentless. "Navigation," Ji-ho ordered. "Plot a collision course with that dreadnought. All power to engines." His crew understood immediately. They did not argue or hesitate. They were dead anyway. At least this death would matter. "All hands. This is the captain," Ji-ho transmitted to his remaining crew. "Abandon ship immediately. You have 60 seconds to reach the escape pods." "Sir," his executive officer protested. "You need to evacuate too." "Someone needs to fly this ship," Ji-ho said quietly. "Go. That's an order." The Relentless accelerated on its final course. Ji-ho sat alone on the bridge, watching the Valix dreadnought grow larger in his viewport. He thought about his wife on Earth. His son, who wanted to join the Navy when he grew up. He hoped they would understand why he did this. The Relentless struck the Viral's dreadnought at full speed. The impact was visible across the entire battlefield. Both ships exploded in a fireball that consumed everything within a kilometer. Captain Ji Hwan and 800 Verlex warriors died together, but the attack broke the Verlex formation, and the human fleet pressed the advantage. Lieutenant Junho Bay Squadron had been reduced to 4 fighters. They were out of missiles and low on fuel. By galactic warfare standards, they should retreat and rearm. By human standards, they still had guns. "Reapers," Junho transmitted, "one more pass. Target the command ship. Make it count." The 4 remaining fighters dove toward the Conqueror, Warp Prime Thulkor's flagship. Point defense systems shredded 2 of them instantly. Junho felt his fighter take hit after hit, systems failing one by one. He fired his remaining ammunition directly into the Conqueror's bridge. The armored windows cracked. Atmosphere vented into space. Junho's fighter spun out of control, but he saw the damage. They had hurt the flagship. Commander Sujin brought the Indomitable alongside the wounded Conqueror. Her ship was barely functional. Half her crew was dead. Main weapons were destroyed, but she still had one working torpedo launcher. "Fire," Sujin ordered. The torpedo struck the Conqueror's reactor core. War Prime Thulkor had just enough time to realize what was happening before his ship exploded around him. The Valak's commander died, still believing he was the stronger warrior. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, all 47 Verlex warships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost 9 ships completely, and another 15 were too damaged to fight. Over 2,000 human personnel were dead. Thousands more were wounded. But they had won. Admiral Heejun Song sat in her command chair, watching the rescue operations begin. Human ships were picking up survivors from both sides. Medical teams were treating wounded regardless of species. Engineers were securing damaged vessels to prevent further casualties. "Admiral," her communications officer reported. "Captain Minho Park is requesting permission to begin ground operations." "Permission granted," Headgun replied. On the surface of Haven 7, Captain Minho Park led a Marine battalion to the Verlex ground base. The base had been established after the orbital bombardment, set up to oversee the expected human capitulation. Now it was surrounded by human forces with very different intentions. Minho activated his loudspeaker forces. "This is Captain Park of the United Earth Marines. Your fleet is destroyed. You are cut off from reinforcement. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated in accordance with military law. Resist and you will be destroyed." The Verlex base commander, a warrior named Krex, emerged with his hands raised. Behind him, 200 Varic soldiers laid down their weapons. They had watched the battle from the surface. They had seen their fleet annihilated. They knew resistance was suicide. "Where is War Prime Thulkor?" Kra asked. "Dead," Minho replied. "Along with most of your fleet. You are under arrest for war crimes, including the murder of 3,000 human civilians." Craig stared at the human captain in shock. "But we followed proper procedure. We demonstrated strength to force negotiations. This is how the galaxy works." The Galactic Council chambers had been silent for exactly 7 minutes. 3,000 representatives from 400 species sat in their designated sections, staring at the central display. The footage from Haven 7 played on repeat. Varic warships exploding, human vessels fighting with a ferocity the galaxy had never witnessed. The final count displayed in cold numbers. 47 Velic ships destroyed, 9 human ships lost. Arch-Chancellor Velronis finally found his voice. He was 5,000 years old and had seen 3 galactic wars. He had negotiated peace between species that hated each other for millennia. He had maintained the delicate balance of power that kept civilization functioning. Now he looked at the display and realized that balance was shattered. "The humans have committed an act of barbarism," Velronis announced. "They have destroyed an entire fleet. They have rejected negotiation. They have violated every principle of civilized warfare." Counselor Mithrex of the Kellian Hive rose from his section. The Kellians were insectoid warriors who controlled 12 star systems through military might. Mithrax's voice buzzed with anger. "The humans must be punished. Economic sanctions immediately. Military blockade of Earth. Cut them off from galactic civilization until they learn to behave properly." Counselor Franks of the Sarathi Collective stood next. The Sarathi were energy beings among the most ancient species in the galaxy. Frennick's voice was calm, but carried an edge of concern. "Council members, we must consider the implications carefully. The humans were outnumbered and won decisively. Their military doctrine is unlike anything we have encountered. Threatening them may be unwise. They are one species with one home world," Mithrax buzzed. "We are 400 species with 10,000 worlds." "They cannot threaten us, or can they not?" Franks replied. "The Verlex believed they were superior. The Vlex are extinct as a military power." The chamber erupted in debate. Some species demanded action against humanity. Others urged caution. A few remained silent, calculating the new power dynamics. Trade Minister Hun Woo Nam sat in Earth's designated section, listening to the arguments with a neutral expression. He had been a diplomat for 30 years. He had negotiated treaties, resolved disputes, and built peaceful relationships across the galaxy. Now he represented a species that had just declared war on the galactic order itself. Ambassador Quillix scuttled over to Hyun Woo's section. The insectoid's translator crackled with urgency. Trade Minister, Earth has made a terrible mistake. The Council will isolate you completely. No trade, no technology exchange, no diplomatic recognition. You will be alone. Yun Woo looked at the ambassador calmly. Ambassador, with respect, Earth anticipated this response. We are self-sufficient. Our technology is our own. And we have learned that galactic civilization tolerates the murder of children. We would rather be alone than accept that. You cannot fight the entire galaxy. Quillix insisted. We don't want to fight the entire galaxy. Hyun Woo replied. We want the galaxy to stop accepting violence against civilians as normal behavior. If that requires being alone, we accept those terms. On the Velix homeworld of Rexus, Supreme Leader Vorkan watched the footage from Haven 7 in disbelief. The Varix Dominion controlled 17 star systems. They had subjugated dozens of species. They had never suffered a military defeat this complete. Orkan's advisors stood around him in silence. What could they say? War Prime Thulkor had been their best commander. His fleet had been their strongest force, and the humans had destroyed them in 4 hours. Gather the home fleet, Vorkan ordered. Every ship we have, we will show these humans what true Varix strength means. Supreme Leader, his military advisor cautioned. The humans destroyed 47 warships with minimal losses. Perhaps we should negotiate. Vorkan's clawed hand struck the advisor across the face, drawing blood. The Verlex do not negotiate with prey species. We will mobilize 300 warships. We will burn Earth to ash, and the galaxy will remember who the true predators are. The order went out across relic space. Every warship was recalled. Every warrior was activated. The relics were preparing for total war. On Earth, President Jun Quan stood in the war room surrounded by military leaders. The reports from the Galactic Council were clear. Sanctions were coming. Isolation was certain. And the Verlex were mobilizing for revenge. How many ships can we field if the relics attack Earth? President Tunan asked. General Jin Park, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, pulled up a holographic display. Mr. President, we have been preparing for this possibility since we first detected alien signals 97 years ago. While we presented ourselves as peaceful traders to the galaxy, we never stopped building military capacity. The display showed Earth's full military strength, 400 warships in various states of readiness, automated defense platforms around every major population center, orbital weapon systems, ground-based missile networks, industrial capacity to produce 50 new ships per month. We also have weapon systems the galaxy has never seen, General Silkjin continued. Kinetic kill vehicles, AI-guided swarm missiles, anti-adder mines. We designed everything assuming we might need to fight an interstellar war without allies. Admiral Heejun Song, who had returned from Haven 7, added her assessment. The Verlex will come with everything they have, probably 300 ships or more. They will be angry and seeking revenge, but they will still be fighting galactic-style warfare, formations, honor jewels, shows of strength, and we will be fighting to win. President Tunan finished. Prepare the defenses. Recall all colony ships. If the Verlex want total war, we will give it to them. Trade Minister Hunu Nam sent a message from the Galactic Council chambers. It was brief and directed to every species in the galaxy. Earth does not seek conflict with any species. We ask only that the galaxy recognize one principle. The deliberate killing of civilians is a war crime, not a negotiation tactic. Any species that accepts this principle will find Earth a peaceful neighbor. Any species that rejects it will face the same fate as the Vlix at Haven 7. The message created an unexpected response. Small species that had suffered under the dominance of larger powers began sending secret communications to Earth. Ambassador Krina of the Pelzari arrived at Earth's embassy in the dead of night. The Pelzari were a small mammalian species that controlled only 2 systems. They had been subjugated by the Vlix for decades, forced to pay tribute and provide resources. "Trade Minister," Krentha said quietly, "my government cannot publicly support Earth's position. We are too weak. But privately, we offer you intelligence on Varric's fleet movements and military capabilities, and we say thank you." Over the next week, 17 more species made similar contacts. They could not openly defy the Galactic Council, but they could provide information, offer discreet support, and express gratitude that someone finally challenged the system. Dr. Mina Cha analyzed the responses and sent her report to President Tyin. "Mr. President, we have inadvertently started a revolution. The galactic power structure is held together by mutual agreement among strong species that they can dominate weaker ones through violence. By refusing to accept this system, we have given hope to every species that has suffered under it. The powerful species will not let this stand," the report continued. "They will try to destroy us, not just to punish Earth, but to show every other weak species what happens when you refuse to submit. This is not just about the Velix anymore. This is about whether the galaxy's entire power structure survives." Captain Minho Park remained on Haven 7, overseeing the reconstruction. The crater where District 7 had been was now a memorial site. 3,000 names were carved into black stone. Minho visited every day, standing at the spot where his wife and daughter had died. Governor Dahun Choi approached him one afternoon. "Captain Earth is recalling all military personnel. The relics are coming and they want everyone home to defend the planet." Minho nodded. "What about the colony?" "We're being evacuated," Dahyun said. "The Navy is sending transport ships. Earth won't risk another Haven 7. "Good," Minho replied. He looked at the memorial one last time. "I have unfinished business with the Verlex anyway." Dr. Yoonji Kim stood in the medical center, packing medical equipment for evacuation. Around her, staff members moved efficiently, preparing to leave the world they had built. She had spent 12 years on Haven 7. She had delivered babies, treated injuries, and saved lives. Now she was leaving, because humanity had drawn a line and refused to cross it. Part of her was terrified. Earth might be destroyed, humanity might be wiped out, but another part of her was proud they had not surrendered. They had not accepted that children could be murdered as a negotiation tactic. They had fought back. And now they would face the consequences together. The evacuation fleet arrived 3 weeks after the battle. 50 transport ships to carry 15,000 colonists back to Earth. As the last shuttle lifted off from Haven 7, Minho looked down at the planet one final time. The memorial was still visible from orbit. 3,000 names. 3,000 reasons why humanity would not back down. 3,000 civilians who died because the galaxy accepted that violence against the weak was normal. Never again, Minho thought. Whatever it costs, never again. On Vraxis, Supreme Leader Vorkin stood before his assembled fleet. The Veraux fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a plague of locusts. 317 warships, each one broadcasting challenge signals and war chants. Supreme Leader Vorkan stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator, watching the blue-green planet in the distance. "That is Earth," Vorkan announced to his bridge crew, "the home world of the species that dared to challenge us. Before this day ends, it will be nothing but ash and rubble. We will kill every human, we will destroy every city, and the galaxy will remember what happens to those who defy the Verlex." The human fleet waited near Jupiter's orbit. 285 warships formed a defensive line across the Velix approach vector. Fleet Admiral Giwan Lee sat in her command chair on the rebuilt Valiant, watching the enemy ships on her tactical display. "They brought everything," her tactical officer reported. 317 warships, troop transports, support vessels. This is their entire military force. "Good," Jiwan replied calmly. "When we defeat them here, the Vlix will no longer be a military power." Commander Sujin Yoon commanded the Indomitable again, fully repaired after the Battle of Haven 7. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had done this before. They had won before. They would win again. "All stations report ready," Sujan's executive officer announced. "Excellent," Sujan replied. "Remember your training. The Vlix outnumber us, but they still think in terms of galactic warfare. They will maneuver for position. They will attempt honorable combat. We will hit them with everything we have and never stop hitting them until they break. Lieutenant Jun Hobai sat in his new fighter, the name Hana painted on the side. It was Captain Minho Park's daughter's name. Juno had survived the Battle of Haven 7 and refused to stop flying. Every pilot in his squadron carried the name of a victim from District 7 on their fighter. Reapers, this is lead, John Ho transmitted to his squadron. Today we fight for Earth. Today we fight for Haven 7. Today we show the galaxy that humanity protects its own. Stay tight, stay focused, and make every shot count. Supreme Leader Vorkan opened a communication channel to the human fleet. His massive reptilian face filled displays across every human ship. Humans, Vorsan growled. You destroyed one of my fleets through cowardice and deception. Now you face the full strength of the Vlix Dominion. Surrender immediately. Abandon your weapons. Accept slavery. I may allow some of you to live as examples. Fleet Admiral Jiwan Li let him finish. Then she opened her own channel, broadcasting not just to the Velix, but to every Galactic Council observer ship lurking at the edge of the system. Supreme Leader Vorsan, Jiwan said clearly, you are responsible for the murder of 3,000 human civilians at Haven 7. You have brought your fleet here for revenge and conquest. Earth offers you one opportunity. Surrender your fleet for disarmament and submit yourself to trial for war crimes. You have 1 hour to comply. Vorkan laughed, actually laughed. You dare offer me terms. You are weak prey pretending to be predators. I will personally tear your world apart. You have 1 hour, Juan repeated calmly. Use it wisely. The Valix fleet advanced, maintaining formation. By galactic warfare standards, it was an impressive display of coordination. 317 ships moving together, ready to engage in honorable combat. They passed Jupiter without incident. They moved through the asteroid belt with confidence. They approached Mars with victory songs on every frequency. That was when they entered the kill zone. Defense Coordinator Yuna Choice had an Earth's military command center deep beneath the surface. Around her, hundreds of technicians monitored systems that had been built over decades and never tested in real combat. Enemy fleet has entered the outer defense perimeter, a technician reported. Activate autonomous systems, Yuna ordered. Authorization code Echo 7 Tango. Around the solar system, weapons platforms that had been dormant for years suddenly came online. Thousands of automated defense stations hidden in asteroids on moons and in deep space began tracking targets. AI systems calculated firing solutions with inhuman precision. The first Velic ship died without warning. A kinetic kill vehicle launched from a hidden platform in the asteroid belt struck its reactor core at 008 light speed. The ship simply vaporized. 15 seconds later, 20 more relic ships exploded simultaneously. Minefields activated. Missile swarms launched from hidden positions. AI-guided weapons tracked Verlex vessels with terrifying accuracy. What is happening? Orkan roared on his bridge. Where are these weapons coming from? His tactical officer frantically checked displays. Supreme Leader, the entire inner solar system is fortified. There are weapons platforms everywhere, thousands of them. Our sensors did not detect them until they activated. Destroy them, Vorkan ordered. But the platforms were small, numerous, and designed to be disposable. For every one the relics destroyed, 3 more attacked from different angles. And behind the automated defenses, the human fleet waited. All ships, Fleet Admiral Giwan Li ordered, execute Battle Plan Anvil. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The human fleet charged forward through their own defensive network. The autonomous systems recognized friendly ships and held fire. The relics found themselves caught between advancing warships and endless automated weapons. Commander Sugjan brought the Indomitable through the Varric's left flank. Her tactical officer had identified a weak point in their formation, a gap created by ships maneuvering to avoid the automated defenses. Sujin exploited it ruthlessly. All batteries fire as you bear, Sujin ordered. Target command vessels. Maximum power. The Indomitable's guns tore through 3 Vlex cruisers in under a minute. Sujin did not slow down. She pushed deeper into their formation, creating chaos and confusion. Behind her, a dozen human cruisers followed, expanding the breach. Lieutenant Junho Bei led his fighter squadron through impossible odds again. The Verlexics had launched their fighters to screen against the human vessels, but they expected traditional dogfighting. Instead, Junho's squadron flew in perfect formation, overwhelming individual targets with concentrated fire. "Reapers, target that carrier," Junho ordered, marking a relic support vessel on his display. Alpha pattern full burn. The squadron hit the carrier with everything they had. Half of Junho's fighters were destroyed by point defense systems, but the carrier exploded, taking 200 Verlex fighters with it. Captain Minho Park commanded a marine assault ship, waiting for the moment when boarding actions would begin. But as he watched the battle unfold, he realized it might not come. The Vlexics were being systematically destroyed. "Sir," his executive officer said quietly, "this is not a battle. This is an execution." Minho nodded grimly. "They came here to exterminate us. They wanted to kill every human alive. They chose this. Now they face the consequences." Supreme Leader Vorkan watched his fleet die around him. His 317 ships were being torn apart by a combination of automated defenses and human tactics he could not counter. The humans did not fight fair. They did not give him a chance for honorable combat. They simply killed. "Retreat," Vorkan finally ordered. "All ships fall back to hyperspace range." But it was too late. The human fleet had positioned themselves between the Verlex and their escape route. Defense Coordinator Yuna Choi had timed the defense grid activation perfectly. The Verlex were trapped in Earth's inner solar system. They are trying to retreat. Fleet Admiral Giwan Lee's tactical officer reported. Giwan made a decision that would be debated for generations. "Signal to all ships. Any Valix vessel that powers down weapons and stops maneuvering will not be fired upon. Any vessel that continues to fight or attempts to escape will be destroyed. Transmit in clear on all frequencies." The message went out in multiple languages. For a moment, the battle paused as Relic's commanders made their choice. 67 Relic ships powered down their weapons and stopped. They surrendered. 114 ships attempted to fight their way out and were destroyed. The remaining ships tried to flee toward hyperspace range. Commander Sujan pursued the fleeing vessels with cold determination. The Indomitable's engines were pushed past safety limits, but she kept pace with the Vilik. Her guns never stopped firing. "Target that dreadnought," Sujan ordered, "the one with the Supreme Leader's markings." The Dominator, Vorkan's flagship, was trying to escape. The Supreme Leader had finally realized he could not win. He would retreat, rebuild, and return for revenge. He never got the chance. The Indomitable's full battery struck the Dominator's engines, crippling the ship. Without propulsion, the massive vessel drifted helplessly. Fleet Admiral Giwan Lee contacted the Dominator directly. "Supreme Leader Vorkan, your fleet is destroyed. You have no path to escape. Surrender now, or we will destroy your ship with you aboard." Vorkan appeared on the screen, his face twisted with rage and humiliation. "You dare demand my surrender? I am Supreme Leader of the Verlex Dominion." "You were," Jawan corrected. "Now you are a war criminal who murdered 3,000 civilians and led his people to destruction. Surrender." The battle ended 3 days after it began. The Verlex had lost 274 warships. Over 80,000 Verlex warriors were dead. 67 ships had surrendered intact. The